The goal is not a destination. It's to decree excellence every single day, to demand yourself, to push past that limitation, and to discover a new level of yourself. Now, you can either match and level up to the criteria and standards of being your best self, or you can remain an inferior primate with no remnants of fucking consciousness. Now, understand that you really live once, and if you're not growing, exceeding, and pursuing to that destination that you need to be at to experience life the way you want to experience life, then you're really just being you're wasteful. You're being wasteful on earth. So it's time to lock in on the goals, and it's time to move forward, and it's time to progress in steps that we can actually calculate and see tangibly and visibly, because your results are invisible, but not just invisible in the tangible world, but invisible in the crevices of your fucking brain matter and mind that you use to just cap and debilitate and degenerate yourself from where you actually need to be in life. So instead of being hopeless, you should be hopeful and grateful for the fact that you were even born on this fucking planet for free. So instead of living like you need to pay off a debt, understand that the only debt is to yourself, and the debt that you give is the debt that you'll receive. So every time you smoke, every time you vape, every time you drink that bottle, every time you overindulge in food, every time you watch porn, you're really just paying yourself, and yourself is the price for what you pay. Now, you can either level up and get with the team. You can get with the team, get the message through the fucking brain, get the message through your brain matter, and you can either correspond to the same level of efficacy and efficiency that we put in, day out, or you can remain that same level inferior Homo sapien with no remnants of fucking consciousness, and slowly capping himself even more by removing himself from proceeding and pursuing that goal that he always needed to accomplish. And if anything, the only reason he was born was to accomplish the fucking goal. Now, you can either accomplish the goal or you can sell your soul. But you know us, and we're gonna put in the most amount of work day in, day out, while they watch from the couch, and nothing but shit comes out their mouth on what they're gonna do, what they're gonna be, and what they're gonna achieve, because they've really just been showing their tricks from their sleeves, pulling out shit from the crevices of their brain, and then displaying and auditioning and renditioning themselves as inferior chimpanzees. So every time you act out of alignment, every time you feel emotional, you want to start some commotion, inferior. Every time you want to give into that weakness, you want to hit that vape, you want to escape, inferior. And every time you go to Pornhub and stroke your dick to women that don't even acknowledge your existence, even if you wanted to walk past them on the street. So you walk past that girl on the street that you jerked off to Pornhub, and she still didn't acknowledge your fucking existence. Now, you can either remain a mediocre piece of shit that is gonna actively conglomerate and accumulate more shit, or you can actually start increasing in existential value and persistently move towards your goal. If you have a goal and you're not actively exceeding that limitation that you constantly cap yourself to, then you're really just a bitch. So instead of being a bitch, you should look at the limit. You have to identify the limit. So believing there's no limit is a limit in itself. And then you have to conceptualize on how you can defeat that limitation. You have to understand that it's mental warfare. Your mind is mental warfare. And if you're losing the war, you're going to reflect that in your life, because your life is 100% a reflection of you, because you are the source emanation. Your life is a reflection of you. And if you're not reflecting higher quality, refined, defined, and more finer things, higher quality things in your life, it's most likely because you're doing less and choosing less. If you chose more, you would have more. If you did more, you would have more. But since you're choosing to be less and to continuate that process into a never-ending cycle of being a low-level piece of shit, deplorable, fickable, indispensable, renditioning yourself as an inferior subordinate slave, well, guess what? You're gonna reflect that into your reality, and you're gonna live a life you don't want to have. And the worst thing about it is And since you watched this video, you know that you can correspond to the finer things in life, because the only difference between you and the individuals that have things in life is that they actually confront their limitations and delimit themselves while they grow exponentially throughout their life. And you remain on the same fucking level, drowning yourself in that bottle and that weed and that Pornhub, and drowning yourself in insecurity that you inflict into yourself, depriving yourself from your own life essence by going out into the world, or at least going to the fucking gym and hitting a workout and then looking in the mirror like a fucking beast. Who the fuck is this guy? Is this guy really me? Is this really me? Is this how hard I work? It's just a reflection of your mind. It's not an ego thing. It's not for women. It's a reflection of your fucking brain. And if your ego is so big to the point where you actually do actions like work out hard just to impress someone, well, you need to get on the self-development regimen, and you need to find out what the fuck you're missing mentally, because there's some shit in your brain that you haven't came across, because you know that if you work for yourself and for your own benefit, you would have more results. So if you really want to achieve that state of constant persistence of the best self, well, you can go to my development program, which is on my website. We also have an entrepreneur coach, and we also have I'm also an entrepreneur coach, and we do business and social media. But if you're not doing that, you can go and you can get fit. You can get your mental right, because I'm going to give you habits. I'm going to feed you knowledge to become a very highly intellectual, hyper competent, and you'll actually be satisfied when you look in the mirror. Because a lot of people look in the mirror and they don't want to be themselves. Yeah, get on the program and we'll ensure you don't become an individual like that, because we're going to delimit you. And you have to understand that you are the limitation, and every time you resist delimiting your limitation with procrastination and hesitation, it's really just fear. And if you're suffering from fear, you're really a bitch, because there's people on the planet that have no fear. You think we're afraid? Like, you have to understand how energy and vibration and frequency work. Fear is just a low vibration of energy that you're emanating because you're a bitch and you really don't know shit. But if you actually knew shit and your mental was right, so that's why you got to get the fucking key for the door you haven't unlocked, and you get that on my website, because I'm dangling it in front of you, and you can either make the choice to remain an inferior homo sapien without any remnants of consciousness, or you can resonate, you can have some resonance with a highly competent, existential, expoundingly growing beyond this fucking limitation, daily, day in, day out, personal excellence and perfection to the highest of degrees. Like, while they morph themselves into a dwarf, you have a dwarfed self-image if you're suffering from fear. If you're really not confident, if you really don't have the fucking gonads that excrete fucking hormones from your balls to your thorax, and then your thorax stimulate the hormones and then send chemical messages to your brain to make sure that you can actually get some shit done in your life, then you're really just a bitch. And remember that we're perceiving you be a bitch. So before you think that you're safe in the comfort of your own mind, remember, we could tell you're an infertile, low-level primate, self-debilitating, capping, self-limiting piece of shit that is really just despicable, dispensable, and irreputable, and irrefutably just a low-level piece of shit. So you can either level up in life, or you'll be the sacrifice. And if you're not leveling up, if you're not ascending, you're really just descending. And you need to be ascending, because you only live once, and until you actually comprehend the velocity of that you only live once, and you could die tomorrow, so you might as well get as much shit done as you can today, then remember that you'll remain a low-level, irrefutable, inferior primate. And remember, you're not inferior by existential standards. You're inferior by your own conduit. So whatever the fuck you're conducting in your reality to make you be a fat, sloppy, out of shape, or just a unintelligent, non-disciplined, inferior primate, whatever habits, whatever is causing that effect, that's what makes you inferior. So it's not me having a superior complex. It's just you hold yourself to lower standards, and every time you make an excuse for something I just did, then you're really inferior to me, because I just did what you couldn't do, because it's mental inferiority. I mean, You either do it or you don't do it, but every time you make the excuse, someone did it, and you just rendered yourself an inferior Homo sapien. Because to be human is to actually be a human being, so you're being a human, right? Being a human, not just stroking your dick to porn, not just overindulging in food, not just vaping and smoking weed to escape your reality that you can't escape. You can't escape the individual you are. So either become the individual you always needed, or remain the individual you don't need. Peace.